Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about how I set up and filmed the Porcupine movie that I put out a couple of weeks ago. So that all started about a year ago when we noticed there was a hole in the ground right over here. You can't see it, but it's right over here. It was like a couple of rocks. We could see a hole in the ground. It seemed like there was some snow around the outside that was kind of like melted or frosted over, meaning some heat was coming out of there basically. So at that time, we had 2 game cameras. This was in February of 2020. We set up one of those game cameras on the outside of that den and left it for about a 2 or 3 week period. And when we came back and checked the cameras, we had a couple of videos of a porcupine coming in and out of that house there. So we knew basically that a porcupine lived there, which we thought was pretty cool. It was right along the side of the trail. Didn't think too much of it at the time. So we took that footage and put it in a folder with the rest of the footage we had from our game cams. So then flash forward maybe 9 months later, and at this point I had 4 game cameras. We had been up here almost every weekend throughout 2020, just the way that things were. You couldn't really go many places, so we were coming up here and kind of just enjoying the property and some peace and quiet. And I heard something over there. We had a few friends up, but I did a lot more game camera footage and actually planning and setting some of the cameras up and kind of trying to figure out where we thought animals were going. we knew that they used the trails, but we didn't really know much else of what else we had out here, when they were using it, how they were passing through. So the beginning of December, we set up a game cam again on the outside of the den, this time really close to the opening, and we just left it overnight one night to see if it was still being used, to get some better footage of the actual porcupine as it came out. And sure enough, the next morning when we came out, we checked it, and there was 5 videos which are in that movie as the beginning shots of him first coming out of the den. And that was awesome. We really liked it. I posted a picture on Instagram. I had a bunch of family members comment on it and thought it was really cool, and it kind of led to some planning, trying to figure out, okay, well, that was cool, but what could we do? We had known at this point when we had pulled the camera that we had seen some trails, which a porcupine trail is kind of funny. Its feet move really close together, and because there was snow, it kind of like left a tunnel, like a half pipe in the snow around him as his body brushed along it. So we spent that morning just following those trails to see where they went, and we had one that went back past the end of the property, and we had another one that went up towards the right side yard of the cabin. So I followed that one all the way over there, and it kind of ended at the bottom of a hemlock tree. And I thought to myself, like, I had heard that porcupines could climb trees, but I just didn't know, I didn't know their climbing ability basically. I had never seen it, didn't know what it looked like. So we went home that weekend, and then we came up the weekend after that, which was the Christmas New Year's break. So we were going to be up here for about a 10-day period. So I know I had some time to work with, and my wife Christine, she recommended, why don't we just take all the cameras that we have and place them along that trail. At this point, all the snow had melted, so we didn't have the trail anymore, but we could roughly remember where we had seen it traveling across the property, which was, it's probably a good 0.2 miles from the den to that hemlock tree. So we took those 4 game cameras, we set them up along that trail at different intervals, and we had one in the tree that we had set up at the base of the tree, facing right at the base of the tree, basically to see if he actually did in fact climb up the tree, or if he just sniffed around or whatever. Maybe it wasn't his trail. And the next morning we came out and we checked the game cameras, and I think we had a video of him around where his den was, and then we had lost the trail along the way, assuming obviously he doesn't take the same trail at the same time, but must take some sort of a routine route, because it's something he's safe with, things he can hide in between. He is a porcupine, so anything that wants to bite his ass is gonna feel it, but there's still danger. There's a lot of, we have in that video, you can see we have coyotes out here. The shots of those coyotes were taken in the same 2-week period that we were shooting all of the porcupine videos. We had at least 2 coyotes, maybe 3 coyotes on the property, and that's where that footage came from. So yeah, we missed him along his route, but then we pulled that game camera in the tree and eagerly opened it up and put it in the computer and checked it, and sure enough, we had him attach under the tree and climb up out of frame. So that was oh, this is awesome. They actually do go up the tree. It was a really good footage. And at that point, I think we were both fully invested in like, let's spend the next 9 days that we're here kind of moving the cameras around, trying to like lock down his actual trail that he takes, and then we know he's in the tree. We know that's probably going to be the focal point of the video, because you could see when he went in the tree, it was around midnight-ish, let's say, and then when you get the second video of him coming down, it was around 2:30 in the morning, so we knew he was in the tree for about 2.5 hours a night. And that was probably his main focus of the evening, was being a rodent. He has to kind of chew things constantly to keep his teeth from growing, and he also needs to eat, obviously, so I think he likes those like newer branches with the like fresher shoots and stuff, so he'll, at this point we didn't really know yet, but we knew he went up the tree. So the next night we came out and we set up all the cameras up again, and we kind of tried to like narrow down where his trail was. We knew where the den was. We figured we had some good footage from there. We took the one in the tree, and instead of facing it at the tree, we faced it at the base of the tree up, so we could see him climbing. And sure enough, we came up the next morning. We did end up catching him on part of his trajectory over here, and then we did get him in the tree again. And so same thing went the next like 7 nights. You can see in the video at some points there's snow, and then some points there's not snow. It wasn't all filmed in one night, but it was filmed over the course of 7 or 8 nights in a 2-week period, and we had snow, not snow, snow, not snow. Just the way that things have been going, and as you see around me, it's very snowy. Yesterday it was raining. It's just every couple days it keeps fluctuating this winter back and forth. So yeah, by the end of that week we had captured a really good trajectory of him coming out of his den, traveling all the way across the property, going up in that tree, and then climbing out on some limbs and chewing stuff. And because we locked down the time from the timestamp on the camera, we have a pair of night vision goggles. We actually could go on the porch of the house, which opens out and faces that tree, and we caught him in the tree, up in the tree, chewing it from the night vision goggles. And it's funny because on the night vision goggles you can see the flashes from the game camera, so you could see the game cameras flashing and going off, so you knew there was action before we even saw them, which with your naked eye, if you're lucky, you can't see the infrared flash of the game camera. So it was funny to turn that night vision goggle on and kind of face it out there, and then you just see this like paparazzi flash, which you can see in the video too, taking pictures of him going up in the tree. But yeah, it was cool, and like clockwork, every night he was out there for about 2 hours. I think maybe one night he skipped, or we didn't get footage of him one night potentially, but every night 2.5 hours up in the tree, coming back down. And we know for a fact that he has been attacked already before, because there's a spot on the side trail over here that's covered in quills. Like there's probably like 300 quills on the ground, and then as you keep going down that trail, there's less and less and less quills. So I think potentially the bobcat we have here, or one of the coyotes that we have out here, definitely jumped up and tried to bite him in the ass, and kind of, I'm sure, paid for it. But he did, as far as we know, get away. I have this other random video from over the summer of a porcupine going across our bridges, kind of like limping, which I don't know if that was a different porcupine, if that was the same one that was in that fight. That's not this guy. We don't really know. We know there was at least 2, because when they're eating our stairs, which is on a side note, porcupines are always looking for salt, and they like pressure treated wood, and stairs tend to get salt on them from ice in the wintertime when you put down your salt and your sand. So they had been chewing our stairs, and we had some videos of 2 of them like going on a date up to the stairs, chewing and leaving. So there was at least 2 at one point, and the one that got attacked we think is okay, but we did see a porcupine in that video limping around, so who knows. So that's basically how we did that shot for shot. Getting all the footage of the porcupine was over a 10-day period. The beginning part, I wanted to kind of give a little background of, what was happening, how we were setting up the camera. So we did the typical walk around our trail here, which at this point we have about 0.4 miles of trail on the property, which is great. So we were up here, and we kind of just took some shots of one of the days that we went around and put the game cameras out, and then I took some shots again of one of the days that we went around and gathered all the memory cards to bring them back in the house to look at them. So that kind of gave the setting for what the video was. And then I wanted to do some transition to night shots, because we know everything's happening at night. We're doing this all during the day. So I did have some like time-lapse shots I did transitioning to night. Yeah, so that's how that video was made, and that was kind of like an inspiration first in the series, because we've got a lot of game camera footage, but we haven't really figured out exactly what we want to do with that footage yet. And it was nice to make the one video that was just a bunch of game camera footage over the last couple of years, but now that we've gotten better at placement of game cameras and we've gotten more game cameras, we kind of want to figure out a series that's similar to that. Obviously the Porcupine being the easiest because we know he lives on the property and he's kind of a creature of habit, so it was easy to get him that trajectory, but excited for the future and hoping to have some more videos, maybe some of the deer that we see, maybe the bobcat or the bears or something like that. Those are a lot more elusive, but with practice comes experience, I guess, and I think we're getting to the point where we might be able to do something like that, at least get better footage. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already watched that porcupine video, I'll put a link to it in the description down below and up here somewhere on either side, and check it out. It's about 6 minutes long. It's definitely worth it. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of it, and take care everybody. Cheers.